You open the difficult document and immediately remember the dishes, an email, and a video you suddenly need to watch. The task has not harmed you yet. Your attention treats the first uncomfortable minute as an exit sign. If you are among people whose brains resist effort before work has started, ask what this experience is responding to and what would make it more useful. That question opens a better conversation than another quick judgment about your personality. People sometimes reduce making hard things easier to begin to having a defective work ethic or needing more punishment. That conclusion is too small to explain the experience. Hard tasks combine effort, uncertainty, delayed reward, and the possibility of failure. Motivation improves when those costs become smaller, clearer, and more predictable, rather than when shame becomes louder. The behavior can make sense without being ideal, and understanding its purpose does not excuse every consequence. There is no single personality type behind making hard things easier to begin. Temperament, learning, stress, relationships, culture, and practical circumstances can combine in different proportions. Treat this explanation as a framework, not a diagnosis, and keep only what matches the evidence of your life. Start with one possible mechanism. Unclear starting points make the task feel larger because the brain cannot picture the first movement. Hold this first explanation lightly and compare it with what your body choices and energy actually do. Compare this first clue across several situations before deciding what it means. Watch how that looks in a workday. The blank page feels impossible until the task becomes writing one deliberately rough sentence. In the first scene, the need beneath the behavior matters more than how the behavior looks from outside. Read the first scene through need, timing, and aftermath rather than appearance. A second layer is easy to miss. Immediate distractions compete well against rewards that will not arrive until much later. The second explanation becomes useful only when the same conditions repeatedly produce a similar response. Use the second clue only if it predicts more than one response. The experience becomes clearer in private. A phone within reach wins attention during the exact minute discomfort rises. The private scene reveals whether the response brings genuine recovery or merely delays discomfort. Use the private example to compare real recovery with delayed discomfort. The third piece concerns attention. Perfectionism increases the emotional price of producing an ordinary first attempt. For the third explanation, distinguish what you observed from the meaning you assigned afterward. Keep observation and interpretation separate while testing the third clue. Social situations add another clue. You spend more energy dreading a 15-minute task than it requires once begun. The social scene shows what happens when belonging, visibility, or another person's expectations enter the equation. Let the social example reveal the extra weight of belonging and visibility. Another part appears under pressure. Repeated avoidance teaches short-term relief, making escape rewarding before progress has a chance. This fourth possibility matters most when pressure changes the intensity, timing, or cost of the response. Pressure is the comparison point for the fourth clue. Now place the same response inside a stressful week. A checklist with tiny completed steps makes a long project feel less shapeless. The stressful week example separates a stable preference from a temporary response to depleted capacity. Use the stressful example to check whether depleted capacity changes the response. A final mechanism helps explain repetition. Visible progress changes effort from an abstract demand into evidence that movement is occurring. The fifth explanation should increase choice. Discard it if it only supplies a more sophisticated insult. A useful fifth clue creates options instead of another fixed identity. One final scene separates a trait from a trap. After several sessions, the starting ritual itself begins to signal that resistance will pass. The final scene asks whether the behavior remains flexible when circumstances, energy, or relationships change. Let the final example test whether choice remains available as circumstances change. To make the effort pattern more precise, compare three conditions: a rested day, a depleted day, and a day spent with people who feel safe. Notice whether the response changes in speed, intensity, or cost. If it shifts with context, the context belongs in the explanation. That comparison prevents one difficult moment from becoming a permanent identity. Look for a counterexample to effort as carefully as you look for confirmation. Remember a time when the usual response did not happen, happened less strongly, or ended sooner. Ask what was different about preparation, energy, environment, expectations, and support. A counterexample reveals the conditions that make greater choice possible. The hidden cost of effort deserves equal honesty. Making work easier should reduce unnecessary friction, not remove every challenge. Growth still requires effort, but effort does not need to begin behind a wall of confusion. Preserve whatever the response protects, connects, restores, or clarifies. Change the portion, reducing freedom, straining trust, or moving you farther from what you value. Start by observing the pattern. Define the first physical action so clearly that it can be performed without another decision. A second step is practical. Reduce the opening commitment to 10 minutes and allow yourself to stop after completing it. Third, make the change specific. Place distractions outside easy reach before effort peaks, not after attention has already left. Fourth, make the new response repeatable. Create a rough draft rule that separates producing from evaluating. Fifth, use support carefully. Attach the hard task to a stable cue, such as coffee, a location, or another routine. Sixth, review what actually happened. Make progress visible with completed units instead of waiting for the final outcome. Finally, know when more support is needed. End each session by writing the next step, allowing tomorrow's brain to enter a task already open. You cannot guarantee that the brain will enjoy every difficult activity. The realistic goal is to reduce the drama of beginning and help satisfaction arrive through progress. Flexibility means choosing among several responses instead of being pushed into one move. An understandable response does not have to become the only move available. Try one 7-day experiment designed for effort, but do not repeat a generic ritual every day. Choose one relevant action, use it in a real situation, and record the outcome. Keep, revise, or discard the experiment according to evidence rather than guilt. Tomorrow, the hard thing may still feel hard, but it can be hard and already started. Open the page, complete the smallest honest unit, and let your brain learn from movement instead of another argument. The goal is not a new label. It is enough understanding and flexibility to make a more deliberate next choice.